So before I ask you to introduce yourself, could you just tell me one thing from your end? What is that one process or a policy that has somewhere made our lives better?
So can I start? Yeah. So for us, we are unpacked, and we primarily work in CSR. So I think a policy which has made us alive is the CSR mandate in 2013, which has helped the companies or directed the companies to spend 2% of their for social responsibility. So that's one. That's something I would like to mention.
Okay, sir, you.
I would say I have seen the generation when if somebody is applying for a government job, they need to run around with their certificate to get it attested by a gazetted officer. Today, right from your identity at airport to the KYC that you have to give to bank or somewhere where you have to establish your identity, this has worked and gone a long way ahead in India to make your life easy.
Good afternoon. I think the one policy that has had the most significant impact on circular economy in India is extended producer responsibility. So essentially, it's a quasi-tax of some sort, which says you have to take responsibility for what you put out in the market and what happens to it.
So while you were answering the question, you forgot to introduce yourself.
My name is Masood. I'm part of Re-Sustainability. Re-Sustainability is India's largest environmental services and recycling company. It's a 30-year-old startup, 30,000 people across the world, and today one of the largest recyclers in Asia.
Wonderful. Pratim, I'd like to come to you. You are in the intersection of impact and investment, right? What are the biggest policy gaps that you see are perhaps stopping enterprises from scaling in India?
Yeah, I'd like to mention two. Firstly, I think there's this ambiguity, right, in impact benchmarking. I think when we go to corporates to help them digitize their data, they don't have a definite answer as to what are the impact metrics they would track or they would like to understand better. Also, there is a lot of focus on the input matrix rather than the output matrix. So that mandate or that benchmarking from the government or in the policy would definitely help the corporates find a direction. Secondly, I feel that there is a lack of funding also from the government's or the policy side. There has to be a more constructive or more structural framework where the startups which are working on the impact sector would be a little more motivated. So these are the 2 points I feel.
Abhijeet, I'll come to you. India's moving at a very fast pace, right? What's the next wave of reform, if you had to walk us through, that connects regularity, simplicity and sustainability all together?
So India has graduated from a very fragile, spread over and very varied economy to a very strong and fast growing economy today. If you look at that maturity which is now getting translated into lives of people, the age from 2014 to 2024 has already completed 2 legs of reform and perform. In this third term of government, we are looking more about transformation, and this transformation is bringing graduating economies from ease of doing business towards ease of living. This ease of living is not only walking on the street or having a good breathable, walkable, drivable cities, but also translating into the accountabilities that economies, people, citizens, they expect from their digital privacy to assurance of a fire, police, ambulance, services which matters a lot. India has still in this growing age has been criticized for certain things. Civic behavior, the kind of driving behavior we have on roads, the kind of accountability towards people, their identification, citizenship, and a lot into it, where certainty or consolidation are not fixtures as a pillar for economy. In this term, what we expect us and the challenge is to grow above all of them, and that brings our position on global index of happiness, global index of expression, global index of media. Each one of them, they contribute to become India's own origin of indexes now.
Masood, I'd like to come to you. You're in the midst of entire waste management, and the circulation is very, very critical. So my question to you is, what policy support do you need to accelerate India's shifting to the circular economy?
I think the first and the fundamental sort of policy shift that is already underway, but early days yet, is a recognition that sustainability issues or circularity issues are not environmental issues. Today, we have reached the situation where you cannot have purpose here and economy here. We are a country that is very import dependent. So when we look at these mountains of plastics that somebody was mentioning about some time back, that's actually crude oil that we import. 80% of that we import at great foreign currency, and as we have recently found out, great geopolitical cost. So there is a need for growing recognition of the environmental and the strategic aspect associated with materials. We import not just oil, we import 60-70% of our copper, 100% of our lithium, 100% of our manganese, 100% of our cobalt. We talk about electrification, we talk about renewables, we talk about storage, we talk about all of that. We are an import-dependent economy. Can we really afford to put all of those waste in those landfills or in our bins the way we are doing it today? It's an economic issue more than just an environmental issue today. That recognition and the fact that earlier what was voluntary, earlier you could have sustainability as a CSR optional. I will do my business here and I'll do CSR here. Today, for 5 basic reasons, sustainability and circular economy or material circularity is fundamental and core to any business. Whether it is market access, whether it is EBITDA protection or efficiency, whether it is risk management, whether it is access to talent. Somebody was talking about access to talent. Whether it is cost of capital and access to capital. Today, sustainability performance and circularity performance is fundamental to, I think, long-term sustainability of any business.
So a lot of us talk about short-term goals. Let me ask you, from where you sit, what kind of policy would be built when it comes to climate-resilient infrastructure that would perhaps last for long?
That's an interesting question. I think if you look at climate resilience, recognition of the fact that about maybe 40% of our manufacturing infrastructure is vulnerable to climate impact, recognition of the fact that we are talking about something like 8 to 10% reduction in manufacturing output, an unspecified amount of reduction or risk to agricultural output, and overall our coastal areas, and we have very large coastline, and particularly along our eastern coast, where we are already seeing fairly significant ingress of the sea level inside the landmass. There is a fundamental recognition required of the risk of climate change specifically to India. And the second is, I think we need to, right now, I think we are looking at climate more in terms of decarbonization. And essentially, climate has become, if I put renewables, my problem is solved. So if you look at India's primary response to climate change is, I'm developing more renewables. But, if I talk about this particular hall, about 50% of the lifetime emissions of this hall were fixed the day it was constructed. The rest of its energy use, etc., is the remaining 50%. So the point I'm trying to make is that we have to understand climate more holistically, and the response to that has to be keeping in mind, one, you have to decarbonize not just energy, you have to decarbonize materials. That's number one. Our material consumption story has just started. We are here, all the marketers are here. They'll tell you that they want to sell more to the same person every year. So if we don't decarbonize the materials, if we just worry about decarbonizing in energy, we will not get there. Two, understanding that every industry and every city will have a very different impact. The agro industry in Maharashtra versus the fisheries in Andhra Pradesh will have to have a very different response strategy to climate change. This micro level, industry specific, region specific response to climate change is what is really required.
That was very, very insightful, especially, talking about the banquet and the lights, because it's real life example. Having said that, Apratim, I'd like to come to you. Your platform manages CSR value chain. How does it cut through complexity while keeping things transparent and accountable?
Yes, so we primarily deal with CSR data. We work with corporates, help them digitize their CSR data. So, yeah, as I mentioned just a few minutes ago, the metrics we track sometimes are very arbitrary. It depends from one corporate to another. And the complexities in data capturing is what we deal with every day. And I think for us, since we are a SaaS platform, our modules are specifically designed so that the corporates can have a little bit of room for customization. They can, predefine some set of matrix and can track them and monitor them. So that's how the complexities of data capturing are resolved in our tool.
Right. Abhijeet, I would like to come to you. You've been a major part of Disha, the drone pilot, Swachh Bharat. How are emerging technologies helping state build stronger economics?
In previous sessions, you heard how health, happiness, economy, purpose, people, planet, all are important. How do you do that with 2% of health expenditure of GDP in a massive country like India, where 67% of your healthcare touch point is a ASHA worker, which is not even a doctor? The purpose of doing multiple pilots in the vision of our leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister is to find ways that how India used to look at such requirements, such economies and such consolidation, particularly in terms of making lives healthy. If you look outside India, you see in most of the indicators, we are negative. Whether it's a health indicator, police to people indicator ratio, or climate press, and even the happiness indicator of India is less than Ukraine and Russia. This is where we need to find and rework on our growth, on our roots. And this is where Disha comes in with her ambition that how this conversation between a Disha worker, ASHA worker, with the woman from village is translating into making Asia's largest healthcare database. How this budget has exempted the tax holiday for 2047. First time the Viksit Bharat is visible into numbers in a budget session. This too brought together bringing a depository of healthcare data which is used by a drug company, device company, population health management company to monetize and refine their product. And then how it is bringing economy, a new economy. This economy is not an economy of expenditure, but this economy is an economy of making healthcare a contributor to the GDP. Second, which you asked is very important, is drone pilots. Who knew 4 years back that a 10th pass girl in a village area we'll be able to train her for a drone maneuver and drone handling. I, being other than director for drones pilot, got an opportunity to be a beneficiary somewhere in Jaipur when a girl came on a destination and said, "Sir, I'll charge you 600 rupees and me and you and your wife will be shot through a drone with this massive monument in 600 rupees. And this is one very easy example I've given. There are examples of agriculture. There are multiple examples. lakhs and lakhs of women trained under drones pilot. Moving to one very important, not least, is what kind of cultural economy India used to hold before. And that is some very ambitious pilot which is coming in India this year is Kautilya Arsas 2.0. How the work was divided, how ESG compliances were written. If I may, not on the cost of being controversial, ESG and sustainable development goals, both of them, they come from West to India. There is no Indian origin of any such compliances. Indian origin speaks about how human and nature can survive together is in a chapter of Arthashastra, very clearly that the tree that you grow and the population that you increase, they both work in a tandem. You cannot cut a tree which you have not grown in your lifetime. If you do so, आप राष्ट्र के, प्रकृति के और मानवता के तीनों के भागी माने जाएंगे और आपको किसी पशु को हानि पहुंचाने के बराबर दंड दिया. This is the first ESG compliance which is written in Arthashastra. This is how India has grown. But over a period of time, the indexes, compliances, thought processes and maneuvers has taken over India's thought process. This hotel where you are sitting, if I give 4 ESG consultants to audit this hotel, all 4 of them will give you a different result. There is no calculation, there is no mechanism, just a way to overpower your decision making so that their work, their parameters or maybe an imperative of narrative can be imposed on you. And this is what has happened in COP29 when India rejected that 300 billion offer which was made to us. And today we are building our own green climate economy by 2070 going to be 10 trillion. And the first decade, 2030, is more likely to give a goosebump to the world that how a massive country on such a spread has figured out a way to decarbonize its household, mobility, industrial household and institution in a way where we have given a way to the world that how you should live with environment and climate.
Well, in the interest of time, I had a very interesting question, but having said that, we will park it for now. I would like to tell all of you that, this is just not a conference topic, but all 3 of them are actually living it real time. So if you have any questions beyond this, please meet us outside. But having said that, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much, gentlemen.